Hello dear class 5 students, welcome back to our science class, and today we will continue with chapter 9, shadows and eclipses. So this will be the second part for this video. In the last class, we have learned about the importance of light. We have discussed about the three important bodies that were transparent bodies, translucent bodies, and opaque bodies. We have also discussed about shadows, and we did discuss about the parts of the shadows. So I'm sure you remember the parts of shadows, right? So there are two parts of shadows. The first is umbra, U-M-B-R-A, and the second part of the shadow is penumbra. So the central part is the umbra, which is also the darkest one, and penumbra is the light shaded outer part, right? Now today we are going to discuss about eclipses. Okay, eclipses. But before we do that, I want to show you this picture. You can have a look. So here we can see the shadow of a flying plane, right? This is the shadow. So you can see here. Now we also get to see the shadows of birds, right? So students, now even the planet, the earth, the moon, they cast a shadow. Okay? Now, the topic that we are going to discuss is eclipse. So students, astronomical body, okay? The astronomical bodies, they also cast shadow on another bodies. Okay? They also cast shadows on another bodies. Now, students, so this is a brief explanation about eclipse. Now, students, it has been many times that eclipse have occurred, but it has gone unnoticed. It has gone unnoticed because it does not have any effect. It does not have any effect on humans, on us. But there are two prominent eclipses. Okay, there are two prominent eclipses which have effect on us. So the first eclipse would be the lunar eclipse, and the second eclipse is solar eclipse. Now, like I have said, these eclipses are the astronomical are when like the astronomical bodies, they cast their shadows on another bodies, right? So these are the two eclipses which shows or which have effect on us. So the first is the lunar eclipse. So let's see. So see students, here we can see the shadow of the earth, right? We can see the shadow of the earth. Now this happens. Now lunar eclipse, this occurs, okay? Lunar eclipse occurs when the moon passes through the shadow of the earth. Okay? Let me repeat. Lunar eclipse occurs when the moon passes through the shadow of the earth. Now, it will be dark, it will be dim, okay? It will be dim until it emerges out of the shadow. Now, this takes place when we get to see full moon, okay? When the moon is full. Now, in this case, students, we will see that the earth is between the sun and the moon. Okay? the Earth is between the Sun and the Moon. So students, now you know when lunar eclipse takes place. It takes place or it occurs when the Moon passes through the shadow of the Earth. Now, students, we will discuss about the effects of lunar eclipse. Now, according to NASA, okay, according to NASA, NASA, NASA. Now, NASA, they say that so far there is no physical effect on humans. There is no physical effect on humans. But there is a psychological effect on humans. Now, if there is a psychological effect on human, that leads to the physical effect, right? So yes, this lunar eclipse, it affects us. Okay? Now, let's see this. The second types of eclipse which have effect on us. It is solar eclipse. Now, this occurs when the Earth, okay, dear students, remember, solar eclipse occurs when the Earth passes through the shadow of the Moon. Okay, when the Earth passes through the shadow of the Moon, and it will be dark until it emerges out of the shadow. Okay, students? Now, in this case, we will see that the Moon is between the Sun and the Earth. Now, dear students, since we have learned about the occurrence, when do we get to see this solar eclipse? Let's discuss about the effects of solar eclipse. Now, dear students, solar eclipse, it has a very harmful effect on humans. Now, when solar eclipse this take place, we should not look up, okay? Because it can lead to blindness, which is not curable. Okay? So students, we have discussed about the two important eclipses which have a serious effect on us. That is lunar eclipse and solar eclipse. Now, lunar eclipse, it takes place or it occurs when the Moon passes through the shadow of the Earth, and the solar eclipse, it occurs when the Earth passes through the shadow of the Moon. Right? So, dear students, that comes to the end of this chapter. So, in this chapter, we have learned about many important definitions and many important topics. So, students, I will quickly summarize what we have learned in this chapter. Okay? We have learned the importance of light. We have discussed about transparent, translucent, opaque bodies. We have discussed about the shadows and part of shadows. And we have discussed about the eclipse. And while discussing about eclipse, we have discussed the two important eclipses which have effect on us. And there are lunar eclipse and solar eclipse. And we have discussed their effects as well. So that is the end of this chapter. Now, dear students, we will start with a new chapter. So, you can all turn to page 21. And the name of the chapter is Air. Okay? So are you all ready? Turn to page 21. The name of the lesson would be air. Now, after studying this lesson, we are going to learn about the composition of air. We will learn the importance of air. We will also discuss about the uses and properties of air. And we'll discuss about the air pollution, its effect, and how to prevent it. So dear students, are you all ready? Let's get started. Now, students, air. We are surrounded with a mixture of gases around us, right? So when we say air, it is a mixture of gas. Okay? Now, our Earth is surrounded with all this mixture of gas. And you know what they form? They form atmosphere. They form the atmosphere. Okay? Now, without air, we will not survive. Okay? Without air, we will not survive. So students, as I have said that air is composed of mixture of gas. Now, I will show you the composition of air. Now, so the air, since it is a mixture of gases, different gases, this is the composition. So we have 78% of nitrogen in air. Okay? We have 78% of nitrogen. And we have 20.9% of oxygen, right? So we can say it is nearly 21. So that means the major constituent of air is nitrogen and oxygen, right? Now let me give you this a practical example. When you eat food at home, you take rice, you take meat, you take pickle, chutney, right? So which one is more in number? In your plate, which one is more in number? Rice. You will say that rice. Now which one is lesser in number? You will say it is chutney because it's very hot. Right? It's very spicy. Now, when you drink tea, if you are asked, what is the major constituent in this tea? Then you will say water, right? The amount of water is maximum in tea. Like that, in our air, since it is a mixture of all gases, the major constituent is nitrogen with 78%. And the second is oxygen with 20.9 or 21%. So that comes to 99%, right? So the 1% composed of all other gases, including carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, you know how much it consists out of 100%? Carbon dioxide consists of 0.03%. 0.03%. So dear students, you have all learned the composition of air. Now you know which one is maximum in number and which one is least in number. And along with all these gases, we also have a dust, we also have a smoke, Okay, the smoke, all these particles along with this mixture of gas. Now students, we will discuss about the importance of air. Okay, now our human life, it is impossible without air, right? Because we need to breathe. We need to breathe. And then not only humans, plants, all wild animals, we need air. We need air. Now, students, plants, we are dependent on plants, right or wrong? All the vegetables, all the fruits we get from plants. But plants, they need nitrogen. Do you know that? For their growth, for their development, plants need nitrogen. So how do plants get nitrogen? Or how do plants take nitrogen? Okay, so we need oxygen, so we breathe in oxygen, right? So like that, how do plants take this nitrogen? Because nitrogen is very essential for plants. Now this is, students, very important because we should also think about plants because we are dependent on plants for many ways, for many of our needs, right? For our daily needs. So plants, they need nitrogen, but they cannot take this nitrogen directly. It is said, right? Plants, they need nitrogen, but they cannot take this nitrogen directly. But you know, there are bacteria inside the soil. Bacteria inside the soil, inside the soil. So these are the bacteria. Now this is a microscopic view. These bacteria are not visible with our naked eye. Okay? These bacteria are not visible with our naked eye. Now, with the help of this bacteria, okay, with the help of this bacteria, the plants, they get nitrogen. So let's go back and let's see. So now we have seen that the bacteria, they live inside this ground, right inside the soil. And these are very small, which we cannot see with our naked eye. So the bacteria, they take the nitrogen and they convert it into another form. So the plant takes the nitrogen through this bacteria. Okay, so plant takes this nitrogen and they grow, they develop. And through plants, what do we get? We get oxygen, right? We get oxygen. Now, students, it is a long chapter. So we have divided this chapter into two parts. So we have completed the introductory part and the first part of this chapter. In the next class, we will continue with the second part of this chapter. So thank you, students. See you in the next class.